I could hardly watch on Wednesday night. We were watching Game 7 of the World Series, and here, how many were tuned into the World Series? A lot of people were tuned into it. Maybe some. Kobe fan. There we go. So it was nerve-wracking for those folks that were Cub fans and for just general baseball fans that wanted to see this 108-year streak come to an end. And I have my history with the Chicago Cubs is I went to my very first Major League game at Wrigley Field on May 16th, 1983. I was blessed to see two Hall of Fame pitchers pitch against each other that day. I was a young guy that was in the Navy, and I had traveled down and taken the train down to Chicago. It was a beautiful sunny day, and I'll never forget these two old guys that sat next to me in the stands, and I had to wear my Navy uniform at the time because I had just gotten out of boot camp, and they make you wear your uniform for like the first 6 months. You can't go anywhere without wearing your uniform. So these two old Chicago guys were sitting next to me, and hey, Swabby! Hey, Swabby! You know, they kept calling me Swabby. And it was just a funny day. It was just a charming day, and I had a great time at the game. And so I'd always maintained a soft spot in my heart for the Cubs, and I was always happy when they did well, but they rarely did well. And of course, it had been so long since they had even won the World Series. Back when they won the World Series, there was really not much respect for the other league. Matter of fact, in 1904, the New York Giants refused to play the other league because they just thought they were such an inferior team. And but in 2005 they played them and they won. Then the next 3 years, the 06, 07, 08 Cubs actually were the National League champions. They lost in 06 to the Chicago White Stockings, and then they won in 07, 08. I think they beat the Tigers in 08 was their last World Series win, up until this past week. And there was quite a bit of fervor. I saw a number of Cubs fans around Kansas City. There were people on the news that were talking about the Cubs. But over the years of this long period of time without them winning anything, they became known as the lovable losers. And I saw an interesting stat that happened sometime in the midst of the World Series where it said that there was 1 out of every 4 Cubs fans that did not want the Cubs to win the World Series. And that caught me off guard. Why wouldn't you want your team to win? This is your team. And their reasoning was that they were afraid that it would lose the mystique of the lovable losers, that they would no longer have that identity. They couldn't be lovable losers anymore because they had won the World Series. So people couldn't embrace the Cubs and have this affection for them anymore because they were different now. They were champions now. So they're no longer lovable losers. Who are they? When our identity changes, who are we? What are we seeing in ourselves? And so we were talking about how we're looking at the world, how the world sees us. And it got me to remembering of a company recently in the news in Kansas City. This company called Eye-dentity. And they had developed this software that would identify you by the iris. They would scan your eye, and that was their security software. This company that was founded by Toby Rush here in Kansas City was sold to a Chinese conglomerate, I think, called Alibaba. And he sold for $100 million. So that gives you an idea of how valuable and how unique each eye is. Not only physically, but also how we perceive the world. What are we looking at? And you think about the distinguishing characteristics of the eye. I'm a musician. I get, even last night, Brown Eyed Girl, right? Yeah. Oh, you play Brown Eyed Girl? I'll be dancing on the roof, I think I heard from a couple of friends. So people identify with their eyes. You see people who are trying to shield themselves from the media. They have sunglasses on because, the general shape of the face or the head can be subcategorized down to maybe about 30 or 40 different shapes. But the eyes really distinguish who we are. You have brown eyes. You have green eyes. You have blue eyes. There's songs written about all of those, Of course, there's conditions with our eyes. We have that red eye flight that we have to catch in the morning. We have, in our vernacular of talking about, that situation really gave me a black eye. There's things that we really identify with our eyes. And our eyes are tremendously valuable to us. So Jesus says of our eyes, the eye is the lamp of the body. You draw light into your body through your eyes, and light shines out in the world through your eyes. So if your eye is well and shows you what is true, then your whole body will be filled with light. But if your eye is clouded with evil, then your body will be filled with evil and dark clouds. So how are we seeing ourselves? What are we viewing about ourselves? What are we putting into our eye? For years, the Cubs put into their eyes that they were losers. They were lovable losers. But that has to change now. That has to become something different because they're no longer losers anymore. But what changed that? What was that energy that changed that? We'll talk about that in a minute. But I want you to stop and think for a minute. What are you putting in your eye? What are you telling yourself? How are you perceiving yourself? What are the things about you that you just know, it doesn't change on the inside. Things may change on the outside, but they don't change on the inside. So I became fascinated with this train of thought of how people see themselves. And I thought, people are always losing weight. We're going to be coming up on January where there's going to be 1,000 different diet commercials on the television. Nearly 65% of the people who diet return to their original pre-diet weight, and sometimes, in most cases, more than that. Why is that? In my humble opinion, it's because they never embrace the new identity of who they are. They do not see themselves as that thinner person. They see themselves as that person that's still big, who's still trying to lose weight. They're not embracing their new identity. They're not putting the right thing in their eye. And ultimately, their thoughts held in mind produce after their kind, and they're back to where they started, and in most cases, above where they started. It's not just in weight loss. Criminals. Oh, I forgot to change the graphic on the bottom. The criminals. There is about a 70% recidivism in criminals. Why is that? People see themselves as a criminal, and within 5 years, about 70% of the people who were once locked up are locked up again. It's pretty staggering. Those thoughts that we're holding in our mind, those visions of ourselves, What are we holding in our mind? What are we putting into our eye? Are we putting thoughts of light? It's supposed to be the prison rehabilitation system, and I would say that based on statistics, it's got a lot of work to do. We need to work on the minds of the people, not just necessarily locking them up. That is where all things are created, in the mind and through the eye. Lottery winners. I thought this was very interesting. People come across a big fortune. Fortune magazine says that nearly a third of the people who win the lottery end up filing bankruptcy. They're not seeing themselves as that person of wealth, or they're either just way stupid with their money. And 70% end up broke, according to the National Endowment Foundation, financial education. Is it because they're putting the idea that they are still really broke? Maybe in some cases it's mismanagement of money. Matter of fact, I think a lot of it is mismanagement of money. They think they're wealthier than they are. They're putting the wrong things in their eye. They give a lot away, and they end up having to pay gift taxes on that, and they don't even realize that they're having to pay gift taxes on it. They end up being broke again. They never quite see themselves as wealthy. That's amazing. A third of the people that win the lottery file bankruptcy. Matter of fact, I saw there's this one joke that said if you really want to do something bad for your enemy, give them a lottery ticket. Seems to bring a woe upon them. So how do we get out of this idea of changing our perception? Well, we do something in unity with affirmation and denials. And that's where we deny the thing that we don't want and we claim the thing that we do want. This is a big part of our faith because, as Don gave in his little talk there, we do create our world with our thoughts. We do have the ability to change our lives with our thoughts. And we do that through our affirmations and denials, the reason we pass around these blessing baskets. Mine says, error thought has no place in my life. I am whole. I lift my eyes to love and blessings. I embrace that. Error thought has no place in my life. I am whole. But how many times do we find ourselves saying, oh man, my shoulder, I'm not feeling too well today. We're giving in to that other idea. We're putting something in our eye that is not positive, that is not good. So I thought I would close today by giving us a closing affirmation and denial. I want to share this with you first. This is from the Revealing Word. Everything that is manifested was first a mental picture and was brought into expression by the forming power of the imagination. Man accumulates a mass of ideas about substance and about life, and with his imagination, he molds them into shape. Each one of us must not only see the image of our desires as a theory, but we must also form it into a living, breathing thing through every motive and act. Every motive and act. We have to live it. We have to embrace. We have to think of the things that we want to change in our life. We have to be that now. Why do people wait till January 1st to start their diet? Is there some magical number to that? Some magical thing that's going to happen in the new year? No, it's because they've not committed to themselves. They've committed to the idea of losing weight, but they've not committed to themselves that this is who I am now. I'm no longer going to embrace a lifestyle that is going to be deteriorating to my health. Why put it off? If that's how you feel today, that's how you should live today. I'm waiting until after Thanksgiving, I'll be honest with you. I'm being honest, okay? No, but I'm serious though. If that's how you truly feel, you have to embrace that lifestyle. You have to do it with every motive and act. That means every word that comes out of your mouth, every word that you're saying about yourself. Oh, I'm this, or oh, I'm that. You have to put a real fence around those, and you have to take and scrutinize those words carefully, because whatever you're speaking is going to manifest. I am. What? What are you putting in your eye? How are you seeing yourself? So I thought I'd close with this affirmation and denial before we go into our meditation. And we'll say these. I'll say it first, then we'll say it together. I release any limiting thoughts of separation and unworthiness. My eyes are filled with love and appreciation for the uniqueness of myself and others. I live each day in my new awareness. So let's say this closing denial and affirmation together. I release any limiting thoughts of separation and unworthiness. My eyes are filled with love and appreciation for the uniqueness of myself and others. I live each day in my new awareness. And so it is. And with that, we'll have Phil take us into our meditation.